Welcome to the third lesson in AZON Master Class 3. Before we actually move on to building the website, I wanted to talk to you guys about the actual content of your website first. As I had mentioned previously, we have all these different locations that we are going to be featuring on the website that we're building here. And there are two different ways that you can go about getting that content. You can go out and actually visit these places yourself and take pictures or shoot a little bit of video. Or you could hire somebody to do this work for you. Now, I am on a website here that I have built. This is the Los Angeles Dog Park website. A decent majority of the image and text content that is here is something that actually came from somebody that I hired that actually lives in Los Angeles. Now, I really only had them write a short amount of content because I wanted to be a little more in control of the search engine optimization aspect of all of the content on this page. So I really just had them write this initial paragraph worth of text that's up here at the top. Beyond that, though, every single one of the pictures on this site also came from them. They physically visited this park themselves and shot all of these different pictures. This particular guy, he's actually a professional photographer, and he had some really nice equipment, and he actually took a couple of panorama views of a couple of the nicer places that I had him visit, in terms of places that had a really cool view or something that was worth showing in a panorama. Well, this place, Runyon Canyon, has some really nice scenic views of downtown Los Angeles. And there's another one down here at the bottom. And you can see these are really high quality images. So you can actually see the detail that is in them. You can see downtown Los Angeles all stretched out here. So my point here is that while this may seem like an overwhelming amount of work to try to build one of these websites on your own, you don't have to do this completely on your own unless you simply want to, or maybe you have budget constraints to where you can't really afford to spend a couple $100s to get the images and content for this website done for you. Now, mentioning the couple $100s there brings me to the next point that I want to talk about, which is pricing and payment. Personally, I would recommend that you do payment through PayPal. And the little message that I'm going to show you how to generate in just a few minutes, it actually references PayPal in it. You can make an instant payment to somebody through PayPal. A lot of people use it. And also PayPal offers a little bit of extra security in terms of the payment disputes. You've likely bought something before that you weren't happy with, and maybe you couldn't get in touch with the person and you couldn't actually get a refund from them, so maybe you had to go through PayPal to get that done. Well, PayPal can help to protect you in case you happen to maybe get scammed by somebody and you don't realize it until afterwards. Maybe you realize all the content or all the pictures came off of another website. while you're paying for them to actually visit these places and to give you unique content and unique images. Now, when it comes to the actual pricing, it's really going to vary quite a bit. And I have an estimator built for you guys that I'll be showing you in just a few to help you with this. It's going to give you a bit of a range, though, instead of just a strict price. There's a number of things that can affect how you really want to price this type of work when you're looking to hire somebody. Number one, you have to consider how far people are going to have to drive to get to each of these different locations. If you recall, we did the Google Map thing with our different addresses to find out an approximate number of miles and driving time for the trip from one location to the next. So this is going to help us here to consider whether we need to be on the lower or the higher end of this type of pricing structure that I have for you. Number two, you also have to consider what you are asking the person for. If you just want a couple of images of a retail store where they simply roll up and snap a couple of pictures from the parking lot and then they can move on to the next one, you could definitely charge a lot less than if you were sending somebody to a dog park and you wanted them to walk around to take some different pictures, or if you wanted them to actually go inside of a retail store and get pictures of the inside, which might require permission of the owner. Maybe you even wanted them to ask the owner or some employees a couple of questions that could go on the record on the website. Obviously, that type of stuff, you're going to need to increase the price. You might even want to go beyond the price that my price estimator would give for those type of situations. So you really just need to think about what it is that you are asking the people to do. Now, this is also going to come down to the writing that you want them to do. If they are just providing you with a couple hundred words of content like you see up at the top of this page here, you're not going to have to pay them a whole lot for the writing aspect of it. But you could ask somebody to give you all of the content for your page in terms of all of the images, captions for each of the images, and a bunch of content. These pages have upwards of 1,000 words or even more than that on some of them. So what you want them to do in terms of the pictures, and also what you want them to do in terms of the content is going to make a big difference there. There are some other minor aspects like hours of operation, different features of a place, finding information like the official website. If you were going after something like a particular kind of restaurant, for example, you might want the person to go inside and actually get a menu and maybe send you digital pictures of the menu so you can include all that stuff on your website. Whatever the case may be, you're going to have to factor that in when it comes down to pricing. And we'll get into talking some specific numbers here in just a few. But ballpark, you could expect to pay low end maybe $10 to $15 per location if all you wanted somebody to do was just run around and snap a couple different pictures of each place, and there really wasn't a lot to the job, and maybe you didn't need a lot of different pictures. On the high end, you could be paying $35, $40, even $50 per location if you were looking for a ton of pictures and 1,000 words of content. And maybe you also want the person to go inside of a store and get permission from the owner to get inside pictures and conduct an interview with the owner to ask them some relevant questions that could be used as content. And that would definitely be a little more on the high end of that scale. So now, I tried a couple of different ways of going about hiring somebody to do this kind of work. And the most reliable that I found was actually Craigslist. I created a post on Craigslist, which you can actually see right here on my screen. And I simply stated the information that I was looking for, told people about the places that I wanted them to visit, and basically told them what I was expecting. Now, one of the things about this, technically, Craigslist discourages people from making any kind of a deal with somebody that they can't actually meet in person to exchange money. As a result, I specifically call this fact out in my Craigslist post. This entire paragraph right here is basically all about that and setting the person at ease with that situation. I basically tell them that I'm looking for a local photographer, somebody that knows these places, is familiar with the area, and might even be able to write some more in-depth content about it than the average person could. And obviously, I need them to be able to visit the location, and I don't live there, or else I'd probably just do it myself. So I simply state my case and let them know that I am more than willing to pay by PayPal, and I can even break it up into a couple of different steps. For example, if somebody just wants to accept the project and visit one location and send me the pictures and the content for that location and then get paid for that portion of the entire job just to verify that this is indeed legitimate work, and then they can confidently proceed through with completing the rest of these locations. As the people complete the work, as soon as they send me content and images, I take a look at it, I verify that it is indeed unique. I try to go and hunt around on the internet to see if I can find that content or those images anywhere else. And if I can verify, at least with some certainty, that it is indeed unique, then I go ahead and send them a payment immediately that day. This gives people the confidence that they need to proceed with the work and actually do all this stuff for you and to do a good job for it. The people I have hired to do this kind of work, they all went a little above and beyond what I really asked them to do. And I was actually very, very, very pleased with the results from this. Now, one of the things that I did with this particular post is that I offered to simply hire somebody to take the pictures, and then I offered some additional compensation to somebody for the writing, and said that I would be a little more inclined to select somebody that was willing to do the writing. This was more intended because I didn't know the kind of response that I was going to get, but I still think it is a nice incentive to include in there. I included it in future attempts that I made with this same type of work, and it still worked out really well. I think it encourages people to be willing to do the writing work for you and not just want to do the photography, because I'm really posting this more gearing towards the photographers because I want to try to get some decent pictures. So now, this might all be a little confusing for you at the moment. I didn't want to just throw you to the wolves and say, okay, now go to Craigslist and make a post about it, and good luck finding somebody. I wanted to try to guide you through as much of this as I possibly can. And so what I have done is I have created a Craigslist post generator for you. It's not actually going to post on Craigslist for you, but it's going to give you all of the information that you are going to need for your Craigslist post to hire a photographer and a writer. Up at the top, we have the subject of the post. We have the compensation for the post. And then we have the actual post content. So there's three main parts to this post that we need to be able to input when we're actually going and creating a new post. So in the class materials for this particular lesson, you will find a link to the Craigslist post generator that I have created for you guys. To start out with, you just need to answer one simple question, which is whether you want the photographer to also write articles. If you're only looking for pictures, simply change this to no. Otherwise, leave it set to yes, and then proceed to the next step. Now there's only 2 steps here, so once you proceed with entering in the rest of this information, then you're going to be completely done. It's going to give you everything that you need to proceed from here. So what you want to do is go through these different text boxes and provide the appropriate information here. And this is going to generate all of this information for you. Now, up here at the top, place type, usually your niche. I'm going to flip back and forth here so you can actually see where these different things are going to end up located in your final post. The place type is right up here in the first sentence. Dog parks and beaches is my place type. You want this to be in a plural form because it's going to sound better for both the text here, and it's also going to end up as part of your subject as well. So right here, for this time, I'm just going to use dog parks, and I'll just enter it. Use all lowercase letters for your place type. Next, we have the city name. So this is really simple. It can be just Los Angeles. If there are any surrounding areas that you're going to be sending them to, you may also want to state this. Like, I send people to Long Beach for 1 or 2 of the dog parks. So I can include this as well. In this next box, we simply want to tell them what we want pictures of. Now I have some general information already here that could apply to pretty much any place that you might be sending them. However, feel free to go through and edit this, make it a little more specific to your places that you're going to be sending them. Remove and or add to the list to get what you are after in terms of what your vision may be for this website. All of these pictures are going to end up being what creates the content of your entire site here. All of these pictures going down this page are the pictures that were obtained based on this description here. And you can see in my post right here, I have the same type of thing. I am asking for certain types of pictures. Next, if you previously answered that you wanted to have articles from the photographer, this box will be available asking you for an article word count. Enter in a number. I would recommend somewhere in the 300 to 800 neighborhood. But if you are going for something specific, again, it's quite okay to go outside of those bounds. So a 300-word article would be something like what I did here. Just this beginning portion of content. This might even be a little less than 300 words. If you wanted something like the full page worth of content, you'd be going after something more in the 800, maybe even a little higher than that, 1,000 word range. Next up, you want to enter in the number of places that you are going to have them visit. This information, the word count, and the number of places that you're going to have them visit, is going to end up affecting the price estimates that this generator is going to provide you with. So don't go for a ton of article words. If you don't think you really need it, or if you're willing to do some of the article writing yourself, go a little on the low side. That way you could get a little bit of the insider information from somebody that actually lives there and has gone to the place. And then you can add a little bit of fluff information based on the things that you can research online, and also based on the images that you were provided with. You can basically just talk about the images and create another 400 to 600 words, no problem, if you have 10 to 15 images to go on. So this large blank box is for a list of places and addresses. This is going to be the list that you came up with in the previous class when you were going through on Google Maps. And you can see here on my page that I have a long list of them. What I like to do is just provide the place name and then the proper address down below. Now, certain places like dog parks, for example, may not have a specific address, but you may just end up needing to pick something, or maybe state an intersection of two roads. As long as the person can actually find the place that you are trying to direct them to. So with that said, I'm going to paste in my list of places and addresses, and then I can proceed on to the next box. Here, I want to provide that estimated mileage and traveling time that Google Maps provided me with. Right here, I say 96.6 miles and 2 hours and 45 minutes travel. That's what I'm going to enter in here, 96.6 miles and 2 hours 45 minutes. You can see a little example is provided here, simply telling you to provide the number of miles and the number of hours and/or minutes. This is going to get translated into your final posting in this sentence down below all of your addresses. So you're going to be telling people exactly what this estimate is. By giving them all this detailed information, this helps to instill the confidence that this is a genuine offer for work, and it also helps them to have a little confidence that you're not going to hit them with things later on in terms of, oh, well, I wanted this done, and trying to send them back out to the locations. You are specific about what you are looking for up front, and people recognize that and respond to it, and those are the kind of jobs that they want to do because they know exactly what they have to do, and they can determine whether it's worth their while to do the work or not. So next up, how long until you will pick an applicant? If you want to find somebody pretty quickly and get them working as quick as you possibly can, do something like 24 hours. I provide the little example here. You can type in whatever you want to. It could be 2 days, it could be 1 week. It really doesn't matter, but I would try to keep it as short as possible. If people realize that they can do this work and turn it over pretty quickly and have cash in their pocket in a short period of time, people that wouldn't ordinarily do the work, but maybe they're in a bit of a cash crunch and are well-versed in maybe a photography professional, they'll jump on this type of work. And that's exactly the kind of people that I was able to find on Craigslist by posting this type of offer. Now, down below, we also have the deadline, and this is fairly similar to the one above. However long you want to give them to complete the work, enter that down below. I would recommend, if you are doing 10 locations, to give them at least a week. This allows them to go any particular days of the week that might work out best for them, but it also keeps it from spanning out too long, so you're not waiting forever. These last two bits of information, as far as the time frame that you are expecting everything for, this is going to end up showing up down in the bottom of your post. So now, once you have everything filled out here, simply click on the Generate button, and this is going to do all of the work for you. Up at the top, we have the recommended project fees. Personally, I paid people on the higher end of this. I actually was a little higher. I offered $350 for mine. And truth be told, I ended up providing the photographer a bit of a bonus because they provided well more pictures than I originally asked for, and it made for a much better website as a result. So I honestly ended up paying $400, so I paid $40 per location. However, I was going for Los Angeles. I had 100 miles and estimated almost 3 hours driving time of travel. And not only that, Los Angeles has some of the worst traffic in the country. So that estimated driving time was not based on traffic. So I'm sure that that 2 hours and 45 minutes probably in real life was more like 4, 5, 6 hours of driving time. So with that said, depending on what you're looking for from the person, as I had mentioned a little earlier, is going to heavily affect what side of this range you should really offer this kind of work for. If you're just sending the person to a retail location, you just need a few pictures snapped outside from the parking lot, and you're looking for a short amount of content information, you could definitely go on the low end of this and only pay somebody about $200 or so to visit these 10 different places and give you a few pictures and a little bit of content to go along with them. Now, beyond this, the compensation message. I pointed this out to you in the Craigslist post before. Right here, the compensation message. You can see I said $250 for all 10 locations or $350 with extra writing gig included. So this example right here does the exact same thing, but it's using the low end of these estimates. You can see 210 is right here, and 150 is coming from here. And this is mentioning the 10 locations, which is a number that we provided in the text boxes down below. So feel free to modify this to your liking depending on what you end up selecting for your project fees. This would be your base amount for just the pictures, and this would be your total amount for the pictures plus the articles if you are including them. Now, if you're not doing articles, this will look slightly different. It won't include this extra information about the actual articles. Now, going down a little further, we have the subject, pictures of local dog parks, beginners welcome. This is the same thing that I did here, pictures of local dog parks, beginners welcome. You're welcome to try to change this subject, but this attracted a lot of attention, so I find if it's not broken, why try to fix it? So you should be able to use this post subject exactly as it prints it out here. Simply copy and paste over to Craigslist. Now everything else is all generated for you. You have the entire message that you could simply copy, do a select all, because as you can see you have to scroll down in this box. Select all and then copy and then paste all that over onto Craigslist. Now, I would at least recommend reading through this entire post before you actually put it up on Craigslist, simply because you are offering work for somebody here and you are offering to pay them for that work. So you should be aware of exactly what you are asking people for, and especially save this message somewhere. People might ask you for it later. If you get a lot of responses and select somebody for the job and then you remove the post from Craigslist, which you will want to do or else you'll just keep getting more responses for it, then the person might say, hey, could I get the list of addresses again, or could I get the list of the different kinds of pictures you wanted me to take for each place. So definitely save this information for later, in addition to posting it on Craigslist and of course proofreading it to make sure it all sounds good and to make sure everything is in there that you want the person to be doing for this work to get paid what you're offering to pay. So I want to move on now to talk to you about actually creating this post on Craigslist. The first thing that you're going to want to do is to find the city that you are targeting. Craigslist, just in case you've never used it before, is all about having everything targeted to a specific city. So there is a Los Angeles Craigslist. But for different cities in the country, there will be a different Craigslist. And in fact, when you just simply try to visit Craigslist.com or Craigslist.org, you will find that it'll try to redirect you to one that relates to the city that you live near. So if you're targeting a different city elsewhere, you want to make sure that you select the appropriate city before you proceed with actually creating this post. So to do that, you go over here on the right. You have some major cities that are listed, and then you also have U.S. cities and U.S. states, Canada, and even worldwide here. So you could go through here and select a state and try to find within a state a particular city. Let's say you were going after Atlanta, Georgia. You could find Atlanta, Georgia, or any one of the other different areas that this is broken down into. So once you are on your relevant Craigslist page for the city that you are trying to target with this website, then you can proceed with trying to create your post. So what you're doing really is creating a post within the jobs section here. There are really a couple of different places that you could technically be creating this post in terms of the way that it will get sorted here. For example, you could be posting it as a writing job, but you could also be posting it more geared towards photographers. So I'm going to show you exactly what I have done in the past that has achieved a lot of responses for me. First of all, go to Post to Craigslist up in the top left-hand corner. Log into your account, and then you need to select what you want to post. First off, you want to select that this is a gig. Make sure you're not selecting that this is a job, because you're only offering short-term work here. So here, which of these applies? I want to hire someone, or I have a service to offer. We want to hire somebody, so we can continue. And then we are going to select the appropriate category. So as I mentioned before, we could sort this as a writing gig, but we could also sort this as a creative gig, which is something more for photography related type of things. Ultimately, you could probably get appropriate people in either one of these categories. You could maybe even try to find a separate person to do photography and a separate person to do the writing for you. However, I like to just keep it simple and try to get one person to do it all for me, since I'm actually going to be paying them to go and drive to these locations. I don't want to have to pay two different people to drive to the same place. So I go with creative gigs. Now for certain cities that are fairly large, Craigslist may break it down into different areas, such as the ones that you see here. If you're not quite sure what to select, go and Google some of the words that are located here: West Side, South Bay, San Fernando Valley, Central LA, Long Beach. Find out where these places are and try to figure out which is most relevant to the places you are trying to send somebody. You want to get people that are local because you can pay them less. There will be less driving involved for them if they don't have to go an hour to get to where your driving route actually begins, because they obviously won't be living right at one of these parks most likely. Now, even though you're going to be selecting a particular area here, your post will still appear on the main site. But selecting an appropriate area can help to get you even more exposure. And if you're still not sure, or if your places are spread over the entire city, go for the place that you think might have the most people. For LA, I ended up going with Central LA. I could have possibly picked Long Beach because I did have a dog beach and a park down in that area that I sent them to, but the other 8 locations were really more around Central LA instead. And I also assumed this would have a higher population. So once you have done this, you get to the actual place where you can begin your post. I have provided almost everything that you need here for this post on this page over here. Example compensation message. If you're happy with paying the low end, if you don't have a lot of mileage and driving time, and if it's fairly simple work, if they're not going to have to go and do a lot of walking, for example, when they get to the place, then you could just copy this message and select pay, and then where it says describe compensation, simply paste that in. For the subject here, copy this and paste it in as the posting title. For the posting body, this is going to be the really large message. So we select it all and copy it, and then we can paste it in as the posting body. Now, there are a few other things that you need to do here besides what I've already given you. You need to set up your contact info. Personally, I just go with the Craigslist mail relay. It keeps you from getting a lot of spam, and you don't have to worry about phone calls or text or anything. But if you would prefer to go about getting calls or text messages, you can provide those options instead. Down below, there are 2 more boxes here that you need to fill out. Specific location, this would be the city. So Los Angeles is simply what I provided. Over in postal code, this technically is optional. If it is one small location, you don't necessarily have to be providing a postal code for all of the locations, but try to pick a central postal code if you can. Look at your driving route on Google Maps and try to figure out where the middle of it is, or perhaps where the majority of the locations are at. So scanning through mine, I see that this one is used a couple of times. LA is a pretty big place, so their zip codes, they have quite a few of them. So I can just punch in one of my zip codes, what I think might be a central location for all of my places. Beyond that, that's all you have to do. Simply click on the Continue button and you'll be live on Craigslist after a quick approval, and then you simply sit back and wait for the applications to come in. I'm going to go ahead and close down this particular Craigslist posting page because I've already done this work and had it completed, and I certainly don't want to post that again. I'm going to move over to the email account that I have set up to run with that Craigslist account, so I can discuss the whole job interview process with you. On this page here, I have 19 emails. I received all of these emails in less than a 24-hour time period, going from July the 1st through July the 2nd. This one at the top here has some later emails because this is the guy that I ended up picking to do the work for me. So as you can see, I had a ton of interest in doing this project. Think about this. These 19 people in relation to what I offered here for this work, and also in relation to the 10 locations, roughly a 300-word article, and 100 miles and about 3 hours of travel time in a pretty traffic congested city. If I had 19 people interested in doing this work for this price, I'd be willing to bet that I could have offered less. I might not have had as many people interested in doing the work, but I still would have had people interested in doing it regardless. I could have easily gone to $300 for the whole project. I maybe could have even gone as low as $250 for all of it, writing included. So consider this when you're making a post. Don't try to go too low, or you might run away the people that are actually professional photographers, or people that might actually be willing to do a good job for you. But you do want to try to find that happy median, simply so you can get the work for as little as possible, but still get quality work as a result. So what you want to do, you have your time period that you have set. In your text information, that 24-hour time period that you said you were going to select somebody within, you wait that long to accumulate all of the applications. Then you need to go through and read each of these applications one by one. Since you are looking for photography and writing, you will often have a lot of these people that include references to their work. So you can even go and see some examples of their pictures, some examples of their writing. This is key in helping you to gauge the quality of somebody's work, so you can see what to expect when they do the work for you. You also want to be paying attention to the way the person actually writes the email to you. This is really important. Let me show you the guy that I selected as the winner. Hello, this sounds like a good 1 to 2 day gig, and I've got a break in between freelance work right now. I'm a writer, visual artist, and I will also work in film, TV production, and can take quality photographs when needed. I had a minor in photography while studying at NYU. Plus, I've already visited half of the dog parks in the list with my own docs. I would be interested in writing about each park as well. He gives some writing samples, and I even end up getting some photography samples from him as well. So this guy expressed an interest, said he could do the work pretty quickly. He sounded like he had talent in both areas, and I especially liked his writing. If you're going to be paying somebody for writing, you need it to be good English, you need it to be proper spelling, and you need it to be clear, make sense. So this guy hit on all the different points that I was really looking for out of hiring somebody. And just to give you some comparisons, I want to show you, looks like this was not actually somebody that applied. This was just a generic automated Craigslist message. But I still got 18 people. This person lives pretty close by. They give some information. They say that they live pretty close by, but you know, they talk about needing money up front. Obviously, you don't want to do something like give somebody money up front. Get them to go out and do work on one single place and then pay them for completing that work. But don't ever, ever, ever put money in somebody's hands before you receive the work from them. This next guy, he replied, "How much?" That was his response. I wouldn't even justify that with a reply. That would just go to show you that he doesn't read very well, because the compensation is clearly stated in the post. So you can kind of get a feel for whether people would be a good candidate based on how professional they present themselves to you in the email when they contact you. Some people will give you some really good examples, and other people will simply be short, sweet, and to the point. Go through, and if you have a lot of responses, kind of like I did, try to select a top 2, top 3 maybe, out of the entire list to narrow it down a little bit. Then go back through those people and try to rate them on professionalism, on the quality of their pictures, and on the quality of their writing. Give them a 1 to 10 score in each of those 3 categories and total up those numbers and see who gets the highest score. And typically, that's going to be your best pick. That's going to be your strongest overall applicant. Considering you're going to be paying the same amount no matter who you pick, why not pick the most qualified person for the job? So put a little bit of extra effort into this particular stage of the process, and then you can easily end up with really high quality photos and high quality work like this. I mean, you can actually see people standing on this ridge over here, which is really far away. And all that was because I identified the professionalism in this guy. So now, when you arrange to select somebody, look at what they're telling you. If you want some additional information from them, please feel free to exchange a couple mails with them. Ask them for some examples of their writing. Ask them for some examples of their photography. Ask them if they have any knowledge of the places that you're sending them to. And try to narrow down your list that way, especially if you have a couple of people that you think are perfect for the job. You can try to figure out who's really more suited for it that way. When you do select somebody, though, if there are any more specifics that you need to provide, that would be the time to do it. Make sure you're doing that up front and not later on. Get everything worked out ahead of time before they begin work and before you then become responsible for paying for some of that work. One of the things that I would recommend working out ahead of time is how you'll actually go about delivering all of this work. You're going to have pictures, which can often be high resolution. Personally, I would recommend getting the highest resolution possible from your photographers. Something in the neighborhood of 8 megapixels, 10 megapixels, even higher than that, if you can get it, is great. A resolution of 4,000 pixels or 5,000 pixels squared, or slightly off squared if it's a HD resolution. Make sure you specify this stuff to people when you are exchanging contact with them. When you are replying back to them, simply tell them that you want high quality images. Although we still gave some basic information on the actual Craigslist post for that type of thing. So now, the delivery of that content. You can really go about that a number of different ways, but oftentimes, because those images are decent file size, you're not just going to be able to send them through something like Gmail. You can do things like Google Drive, where they set up some of the pictures in their Google Drive account, and then you download them to your computer. They have these desktop software for Google Drive that's free, that you can have it automatically sync content from your Google Drive, and that's how you get it all on your computer. You can do the same thing with Dropbox even, but honestly, I've done both of those for this exact type of work, and I found them both to be pretty complicated. What I would really recommend to do is ask the person to put all of the writing and images into separate folders for each of the places that you are having them visit, so everything is well organized. Then take all of those folders and compress them into a zip file using something like WinZip or WinRAR or Stuff It Expander if they are using Macintosh. Then simply send you that zip file. Now that zip file is going to be pretty big, so the easiest way that I have found to send something like that is with Skype. If you already have an account, simply share your contact information on Skype with the person once you have agreed to select them for the job, and get them to add you on Skype so you guys are on each other's contact list. Then all you have to do, I'm going to pull up Skype here, just find the person's name on your contact list, select them over here, go over to Conversation, Send, and File. This is what you need to instruct the other person to do to send you that zip file. then it's going to show up in the actual conversation, and you just simply have to click on a save button to specify where to save it on your computer at. And then it will transfer that file directly from their computer to your computer. This is a lot less messy than pretty much any other options. So if you have the person suggest Google Drive or Dropbox, say, hey, do you have Skype? Or if not, would you mind setting it up? I really think this would be a lot faster and a lot simpler, considering there's going to be 10 places and numerous images and a writing file to, go along with each of the places. So this will simplify all of that for you quite a bit. Now, even if you had planned on visiting the place yourself, if you picked your own local city and you simply plan on doing the work instead of hiring somebody else to do it, this particular lesson might not be of a lot of use to you immediately. However, if you find this type of site works out well for you, you're probably going to want to build more, and you eventually might need to expand outside of your local city. So this information will come in handy for you at some point or another. So I simply wanted to be sure to include it for you. Now, on top of that, simply seeing how I approach this from an outsourcing perspective should help you to grasp everything that's going to be needed to actually go out and do the work yourself. Look at this post that I've created and read through it and see the information that's there. This can help you to get a good understanding of what you would actually have to do to go out and do the work yourself. And you can really decide whether you want to do that or whether you would want to outsource it to somebody. There's certainly nothing wrong with outsourcing it, even if you live in that city yourself. Maybe you just want to outsource the pictures, but do the writing yourself if you're familiar with those different places. Whatever the case may be, you should be able to utilize this particular training lesson in some form or fashion. Now, in the next AZON Masterclass, we are actually going to continue on and begin building our site. We're going to get our domain selected, we're going to get WordPress installed, get the whole site set up and prepared to be ready for construction. But it's good to take a bit of a pit stop here to learn about this outsourcing, because if you are going to hire somebody to take the pictures and to write the content for you, you need to go ahead and get this thing in the works. Because if you're going to have a 24-hour waiting period before you select somebody for the job, and then you're going to give them a week to complete the project, then that's a minimum of 8 days before you're actually going to have the pictures and the content in your hands. So I wanted to get this in your hands ahead of time so you can prepare for the actual site construction, because obviously once you get the site set up, there's nothing else you can do if you don't have the pictures and these different locations visited and the content prepared for them. So this will get us geared up for the next lesson. For now, either prepare and hire an outsourcer yourself, or begin visiting your own locations at least to go out and get the pictures if you're going to visit yourself. You could go through and do the writing later on, location by location, as you are putting the site together. Or you can go ahead and try to do everything up front, as though somebody were hiring you to do the work. So between now and next lesson, try to go ahead and get all these 10 places taken care of, whether it's you taking care of it or hiring somebody else to do it.